What's up everyone, welcome back, hope you're all doing awesome, and it's time for more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe for more and let's get right into today's Reddit stories. Male Karen had a hissy fit that I let a woman get off the plane before me, so I made him regret his choice of words. This just happened today. I had just landed for my layover and I was in the very back of the plane, second from last row. I had a row to myself on my side. Across the aisle from me was a man in his 50s or 60s who also had the row to himself on his side. Same deal in the last row behind us, two women who each had their own sides of the row to themselves. We land, seatbelt sign turns off, and people start to stand up. I stand up, the man stays sitting. One of the women behind us stands up and lines up behind me. That's when I hear him say, "Where do you think you're going? No one's getting off yet. Sit down and stop crowding us." The woman apologizes and says, "I'm sorry, I really need to use the bathroom." He mutters something unintelligible. I tell her she can go ahead of me, and that's when the guy leapt up and grabbed both seats, physically blocking her. No, 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 we get off row by row. Row by row, we don't go ahead of people, we don't push and shove, we get off row by row. I start saying, "Calm down, buddy, it's not that big of a deal." But he just keeps repeating, "Row by row." He brings his guard stands down and she pushes past him. Dude looks like he's going to keel over from anger. Now the lineup is just me, then him, then the other woman behind us who looks disgusted. So I say, "Okay buddy, calm down," again, and we start walking. 2 rows ahead of us is a couple still sitting down getting their baby packed. They clearly have a few minutes to go before they're ready. So I stop behind them and do the same stance he just did. "You guys take your time," I say, parked to make sure this guy isn't going anywhere. The dad says it's okay, they're going to be a moment, but I say very loudly, No, we get off row by row. Row by row, you guys go ahead." The couple had definitely heard our spat and knew what I was doing. We waited a solid 3 or 4 minutes for them. Then as we got further, I did it again with another woman who was waiting for the flight attendant to bring her her bag. This lady was more confused when I insisted we wait, but she went along with it. I just kept saying very, very loudly, "We get off row by row." The first time the man said, "This is stupid," and I said, "Row by row." The second time he was silent, but I certainly wasted a good 5 or 6 minutes of his life he couldn't afford to spare. Calling ski patrol on a guy after he hit my son with his skis. My son, 11, and I, 44 male, recently booked a trip to go skiing in Colorado. It was my son's first time skiing, but he had seen a lot of skiing videos on YouTube and he seemed really excited for the trip. We also live in Florida, so this is not the trip you can just go and do whenever you like. We are not rich. I grew up in Utah and I loved skiing when I was younger, and I would say I'm an expert on the mountain. The first day goes all good, and my son really enjoyed skiing for the first time, even though he fell quite a lot. I made sure to be as supportive and caring as possible, even when he was struggling, because I wanted to make this as fun an experience as possible for him. However, on the second day of skiing, he says he's finally ready to ski down the whole mountain, and so we take the lift to the top. Luckily, there was a way to get down the mountain while only staying on the green level trails, so we took that way. My son is having a blast, when all of a sudden, this guy in his 20s careens into my son from behind, going on insane speeds, wiping them both out. My son immediately started crying and came running to me after he got his skis off, and once he calmed down he ran to the lodge where my wife was, and she decided to take him to the doctor's office. I immediately confront the guy for being so reckless, and he simply says that I should have been paying better attention to my kid, and then he rode off. That was the final straw for me, and I called the ski patrol number in the app and told the guy the situation and what the skier was wearing, and they told me they would find him and kick him out. Later on, I saw him getting escorted out of the park by 2 ski patrol officers, and when he saw me, he immediately started cursing me out and calling me a horrible dad. I did my best to ignore it. Troublesome neighbors have been blocking access to a part of our house with an important water line in our septic tank. We've wasted thousands of dollars paying for utilities they should be paying. A little background about my neighbors. They're actually my stepsister, father's side, and her husband. They split up a plot of land with my parents to build their houses when they first immigrated to Guam. Unfortunately, those two are bad apples that have repeatedly caused conflict with my household over the years. They don't actually live in the house they built as they're still renting a place somewhere. I'm sure they've planned to move in someday, but for some reason they don't want to or can't get their own water and electrical utilities built for their house. Back in 2014, they asked my mom if they could connect to our utilities and just pay their share. Despite other family members' warnings in the past, my mom still agreed and came to regret it. She caught them using electricity without paying their share, and it became a whole incident that involved the police because they were threatening us. They've disconnected their lines, and we've had a lot of tension between us over the years. One time we caught them collecting water from our outdoor faucet. After that, they've started erecting fences and barriers, using sheets of tin and going so far as to block our window from which we caught them from, which you can see here in these pictures. They obstructed view and completely blocked access from that side of the house that has an important water line, electrical box, and our septic tank. For some reason, we've never done anything about it. They've claimed that that part of land is theirs, and my mom says it might be true and that my father mistakenly set up our septic tank there. Fast forward to New Year's of 2023 after tensions have died down. My mom made up with the couple, but in the process, they were able to manipulate her into giving them permission to use our water and electrical again. I voiced my disagreement hard for obvious reasons, but my mom is very gullible. They've supposedly connected to our lines after that, although I've suspected that they've secretly done that years prior because of all the barriers they've put up, and I've heard them blasting speakers sometimes. This image shows grass growth over the line that should not have been possible within a few months. History repeats itself, however, and our utility bill average has gone up a whopping $120. My mom should have spoken to them about payment, but in her narcissistic pride, she argued that they should be the ones reaching out to her about payment. I've spent almost 2 years hearing my mom complain about my neighbors not paying their share, as she stubbornly refuses to approach them, despite constantly voicing her desire to. I've been taking the brunt of her fury on a tri-weekly basis, with nothing getting done and seeing her bank account wasting $120 every month. A few months even rose up to $200. She has her issues, but I'm sure half of her reluctance stems from the fact that they are very difficult people, and she is too scared about another huge conflict. By some miracle in late October, my mom went to the doctor and coincidentally found herself waiting in the lobby with the very same couple, as well as another stepsister of mine that she gets along with. Because of my other stepsister's presence, my mom finally gained the courage to confront them about the bills. Obviously, they were furious. They brought up the main point about why she didn't approach them, but they also came up with other excuses. It didn't seem like anything was going to get done until my mom showed them our utility bills, as they've apparently compromised on. It was an obvious attempt to stall though. I've already reprinted the bills because we threw the originals out a while ago, and my mom hasn't showed them yet. Progress has been done, but now we're back in the same dawdling state as before. It's been about 7 weeks of tension since then, but now my neighbors have begun to act again. Earlier this year, I've moved into a previously unoccupied room right next to the water line and septic tank. They've ignored this window before, but just yesterday, I heard them drilling something directly on our house. I peeked out the window and couldn't really see what they were doing. After they saw me, they stopped, but later ended up blocking the window with the tarp. Today I hear them doing more work outside my window. I am even hearing what seems to be him flattening out cement with one of those flat blade tools. I am afraid he might be hiding the water lines with cement or even erecting a concrete barrier. We can't see anything because even from our backyard, they've put up a very high obstruction where we can't see. If you've managed to read this far, you're probably thinking to yourself, how the hell did you let them get away with this? The simple answer is just that me and my mom struggle with mental illness. I've slowly deteriorated because of depression and anxiety. My mom is a narcissist, and I've always suspected she was bipolar, but she definitely came down with depression after she got divorced with her ex-husband, and her sister/best friend died. We simply just don't know what to do. Even though I am now the man of the house and seem to be the one with the most rational sense, I can't even confront them on my own. I have a huge fear of my stepsister's husband due to trauma of being threatened by him when I was a kid, and all the countless violent outbursts he has done to my family members growing up. His anger and tone of voice is really that of someone you don't want to mess with. Whenever I hear them arrive or make noise outside, my body gets in a fight or flight mode and I can't relax until I know they're gone. My mom and I can't afford to move out and rent a new place because rent is hella expensive where we're from. I myself have always wanted to move out from this overall toxic environment, but I can't live on my own in my current condition. We have no choice but to stay here and deal with the bad neighbors. So first off, yeah, I can imagine it must be just that much harder for OP and his mom to deal with all this when they're already struggling with mental illness, so that's pretty rough. But with that said, there are certainly things they can do to help deal with this, because as it stands, OP and his mom have done absolutely nothing at all. They've just completely and outright let these people do whatever the hell they want, and they've done nothing about it. And yeah, I understand that they're very difficult people, if not outright dangerous. So maybe on that front, trying to negotiate with them in a civil manner might just be out the window. But if they want this stuff to stop, they obviously need to do something in the first place. And from what I understand, it seems like OP's mom was manipulated into letting them use their utilities. And so it sounds like they're just kind of working off a verbal agreement, and just hoping that they're going to cover part of the bills, which obviously they're not. So first step would just be to put a stop to that. Maybe notify them in writing that they are not to use your utilities and to stay off your property. And also not to mention they're covering OP's windows with tarps and stuff. And if they're actually building illegal connections to your water and whatnot, then get the utility companies involved. Get the authorities involved. I'm pretty sure they'll do something about it if they find out this stuff is going on. Yeah, what the neighbors are doing is infuriating, that much is clear. But it's so hard to read this and hear about OP and his mom just being completely passive to all of it. There are things you can do to begin to deal with this, but you gotta start by doing something. Anything at all would be a good start. If I tell you to spray fairways, you spray fairways. No problem, boss. My first job out of college, I was working as an assistant superintendent on a golf course. One of the most common jobs I was assigned was to spray pesticides on fairways, greens, tees, etc. One particular day I was spraying fairways, and one of the crew guys who was on the next hole over needed help with their machine because it had broke down. So I stopped spraying and went over and helped him figure out what was wrong with the machine. My boss, the superintendent, came riding up on his golf cart and started absolutely blasting me for stopping, and told me that if my job is to spray fairways, that is the only thing I need to be worried about. So I got back on the spray rig and kept on spraying. 2 weeks later, the same exact scenario happened. I was spraying fairways and a crew guy needed help out on the course. I just kept spraying and ignored the crew guy. My boss was making his rounds on the golf cart and came over to me and started yelling at me, saying that if I see someone needs help, I need to be able to break off from what I'm doing and help that person. I'm a manager and that's my job, yada yada. Then he goes, "Do you understand me?" And I said, "No, I don't. 2 weeks ago I did exactly that, and you told me to keep spraying fairways if that is my task." He got all red in the face and drove off in his golf cart, and came back like 30 minutes later and told me to just use my best judgment from now on if it looked like a crew guy needed help. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like and hit that subscribe button as well for more Reddit stories. So I'm out of here, take care, and I'll see you next time.